Our first event was focused on internet marketing, and today we're going to be focusing on finance.
Well, before you go to look for the money, it's really important that you prepare your financial statements or your projections. Oftentimes, in my years at the Enterprise Center, I've seen entrepreneurs come in with a business plan, but the business plan has great narrative, but weak projections. And so before you go to the bank, make sure that you spend a great deal of time in looking at your revenue model that is built out in your projections, that has cash flow, has all of those things. Because before you go to the bank or go to anyone for a loan or to invest in your business, they're looking for the ability to pay back. And so what happens is you'll get discouraged. You'll get the word no. And the reason you're going to get the word no is because the banker or a small business lender is going to look at your financials and say, I don't understand how I'm going to get paid back. I don't see 3-year, 5-year projections. I don't see, I don't understand this revenue model. I don't see notes to the financials. I don't see assumptions. I don't see forecasts or any of those things. So I really want to encourage you to lessen all the work on the narrative, not diminishing the value of the narrative, but the financials are the core. Most people like Peggy and Tom Waller in the room here from First Trust, they're going to go to your financials first before they look at your narrative. And they're going to understand your financials, and then they're going to go to your narrative, and they're going to see if your narrative match your financials. Oftentimes, I don't see that match. And so I really encourage you to focus on your finance. You know, once you get that in place, then I think you then increase your probability of getting a yes. Because the Enterprise Center makes small business loans. We're a micro lender. We can loan up to $50,000, 5-year financing, 7-year interest rate. It's SBA's money. We look for people with clearly the ability to pay us back. Because if you don't pay us back, the Enterprise Center is obligated to SBA to pay that money back, regardless of whether you pay us or not. So we're going to try to increase our batting average by finding entrepreneurs that will pay us back.
Peggy, you want to tag on to that?
I think Della should be a banker, is what I think.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
She's got it down pat here. But I would say this, I think. Bill mentioned it in the beginning. From a startup perspective, you have a couple options in terms of capital, right? So typically you would start and you're going to bootstrap it. A lot of businesses start on credit cards because you believe in yourself, but you can't necessarily show it on paper. And so you go and you do it for a little bit. I saw the term love capital, which was to reference friends and family. And that's got, good side and bad side. The good side is it's probably easier for you to raise it from people that know you and trust you and believe in you. The bad side, if it doesn't work out, you've got 2 problems because your business didn't work and you've got, money from folks that you care about and that are important relationships in your life. But once you establish, to Della's point, you've got some cash flow, you've got a revenue model, then you can either go with equity or debt. And you want to think about, the position that we're in right now is lots of businesses are sitting with lots of cash. Over the last couple of years, there's not a lot of investments that have been made. Inventories are down. Businesses have gotten very good at the fundamentals of managing their business. You guys are really good at managing inventory and inventory turns and getting your receivable days outstanding down and all the things that you look for in terms of managing a business well. And you're thinking about the smart ways to use your cash. And right now, you can't put it anywhere and make a return better than paying down some of your obligations. So that's what's happening. So demand is very soft. But once you decide to actually take the leap and you've got some cash flow to show and you want to go out and be able to get some debt so that you can make that investment to take your business to the next level, Della makes a great point, which is you want to make sure that you're telling your story. And Bill made the point earlier about relationship lenders. There are a lot of stories out there, and it's one of the things that resonates with a bank like First Trust or a bank like Liberty Bell Bank, but the community banks that are out there wanting to engage and partner with the communities, little different than a big bank that's going to credit score you, and it doesn't sort of really matter what the story is behind you. If you're Bank of America, you don't really care about Robert's great, example about how the 10-year model has worked for him in terms of who takes care of him.
Now we'll get down to the real example. Fundraise. How do you get capital? How do you raise capital?
I've been in business for 10 years, so I have a lot of relationships with people. mainly my vendors. So if someone said getting capital for a stove, if I wanted to buy a stove, I can probably go to my big vendor and say, listen, I need to get a stove here tomorrow. And with my record, he'll say, okay, Robert, here it is, and I'll have 30 days to pay it off. That's how I do that, mainly. And then, of course, expanding was using the restaurant's money that we have created and basically working with our vendors. 60 days to pay a loan back, 90 days. And with a track record of opening the second location, it was easy to get it for the third location. So basically, relationships.
Somebody said people do not have enough contingency plans when your dream goes a little slower than you want. But managing that money is very, very important.
There were a lot of questions about capital and sort of raising capital and what a bank or a lender looks at for a loan. So I just kind of want to throw out quickly, and I'm going to go back to real basics here. Whether it's a venture capitalist, somebody looking for some equity, or somebody looking to give you a loan, the 4 C's of credit still always apply, right? So those are character, capital, capacity, and conditions. Character, Della mentioned it, Bill mentioned it. The entrepreneur, the management team, the people that are going to make this revenue model work, right? Capacity, what are your cash flows? What do your financials look like? What have your returns been, or what are your projections, and what are they based on? Sort of capital in terms of what investments do you have in the business. Bill mentioned sort of skin in the game. What does that look like? And then conditions. And this is a tough one, guys, because we're all dealing with the same conditions. Your bankers, your financial professionals, your accountants, your attorneys, as well as you. And that is, we're in a period of a lot of uncertainty. And frankly, in some cases, a lot of mixed messages. We just looked at, Bill just did a great overview of all of this information that's sort of out there. And if you're going to kind of summarize it, it's somewhat overwhelmingly negative. There's a lot of negative information, and yet we all have a little bit of that cognitive dissonance of going to Sabrina's and not being able to get in, right? And so how many of you have said, like I have, to my husband on a Saturday night, what recession? I mean, you can't get into a restaurant, or so there's this little bit of feeling of, okay, there's a lot of negative sort of macro information, but yet, we still see some things to feel optimistic or hopeful about. The bottom line is there's a ton of uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen in the election. We don't know what's going to happen with tax rates. We don't know what's going to happen with, European debt. We don't know what's going to happen with U.S. debt. Industries are changing. I mean, we're sitting in a building here in a venerable, Philadelphia institution that's under a significant amount of change and pressure. What does this model look like 5 years from now? Somebody asked a question about social media in the banking industry and this idea of sort of, peer-to-peer lending or whatever. All of us, in business are looking at all of the changes happening around us, and all of that uncertainty plays into that idea of sort of conditions. And to the point that Bill made, you're making a bet on the future when you're investing in your business, whether your money's coming from equity that you're putting in or whether it's coming from a banker. And so it's an idea of trying to get some certainty in the uncertainty, to figure out how to get your focus narrow enough and focused enough to be able to tell your story, have your energy around that piece, and kind of move forward even amidst all of this sort of swirling uncertainty. And I make that sound a lot easier than it is, but I mean that's it.